In this video, I'm going to describe how to use the Flex Native Menu object to create a context menu. That is, a menu that appears when the user places the mouse cursor over an object and either right-clicks or on the Mac, control-clicks. For this demonstration, I'll use an application named usingcontextmenu.mxml. If you're following along with the exercises, you'll find this application in the Chapter 07 Begin project. In this application, there's a simple label control at the bottom. It's positioned in the center of the screen and has a simple text value. There's also an XML structure with two menu item elements, one with a label of uppercase and the other with a label of lowercase. You can declare a Flex Native Menu object either in MXML, as I did in the previous video, or in ActionScript. Because I already showed you the MXML version, this time I'll use ActionScript, and then you can choose whichever approach you like. In this application, there's already a variable named myMenu, which is data typed as Flex Native Menu. Place the cursor in the init method and initialize myMenu using the Flex Native Menu constructor method. Next, set its data provider. I'm setting all the same properties as I did in the previous video, this time just using ActionScript instead of MXML. I'll set myMenu.dataProvider to the MenuDataXML object. And as before, I'll set the menu's showRoot property to false. This will prevent a menu item from appearing for the root element. Now I'll set its label field. The label field property is a string, so it gets wrapped in quotes, but I'm still using an E4X expression of @label. This means that the label attribute of each element is used as the label for the menu item. And then I'll add an event listener. When the user selects an item from this menu, I'll get an event named itemClick. The itemClick event generates an event object typed as Flex Native Menu event. So I'll listen for that event using the itemClick constant, and then I'll pass the event object to the pre-declared itemClickHandler method. Finally, I'll associate this menu object with the label control as its context menu. To do that, I'll call a method of the menu control called setContextMenu. I'll pass in the visual control that I want to associate it with. In this case, it's the label with an ID of LBL that's already declared at the bottom of the application. That's it. This function is already being called upon the creation_complete event of the application. So as the application starts up, I create the menu, I set its data provider, set the showRoot and label field properties to determine the structure and presentation of the menu, add the event listener, and then associate it with the visual control using the setContextMenu method. Now I'll go to the itemClickHandler method and add some code to determine what I'm going to do. I'll put in a conditional clause, and I'll inspect the value of event.label. As I showed in the previous video, this property is the label of the selected menu item. I'll compare event.label to a value of uppercase. If the label property of the event object is uppercase, I'll transform the label's text property to an uppercase value using lbl.text equals lbl.text.toUppercase. Then I'll put in an else clause. I'll copy and paste that code into the else clause, and I'll change it so that if the user selects lowercase, the only other menu item, I'll transform the text to lowercase. I'll save the changes and run the application. When the application opens, it displays the menu in the center of the screen. I'll right-click on the label and select uppercase, and you'll see its text is transformed. I'll right-click again and select lowercase, and you'll see that the text is transformed again. This should work exactly the same on a Mac. The only difference will be that if you're working with a Mac without a right mouse button, you should hold down the Control key and click instead, and you should still see the exact same context menu.